First, I would like to thank all our sponsors, without whom we could not put on this annual conference. I also would like to take a moment to acknowledge the staff of the Housing Coalition. Anyone who has ever put on an event of this size knows the amount of work and time it takes to do. I'm going to ask the staff to stand up and be recognized. Allison Bronco-Tisci, Jenna Ferguson, Jude Carroll, and Lydia Gonzalez. A special shout out to Jenna, our events coordinator, who oversees the details of the conference, keeps us on track, and also has grown our sponsorship every year for the 5 years she's been handling the event. Now on to more serious matters. I want to draw your attention to the flyer in your folders titled Save the Department of Housing, this green flyer right here. While we are happy to note that funding levels in the governor's, the Democrat, and Republican budget proposals will allow us to continue the important work already underway in housing, we are very concerned about the merger of DOH with the Department of Economic and Community Development. It is essential for our continued progress to keep the focus of a standalone department on affordable housing and the efforts to end homelessness. The flyer gives all the details, so please take a few minutes, reach out to your legislator and the legislative leaders, and let them know of your concern. Moving on to happier things, we are happy to recognize Citibank's long-standing support of the Housing Coalition. Citi not only sponsors the conference, they also support the work of the coalition. Lily Lopez is Senior Vice President of Citi Community Development, covering Connecticut, Westchester, the Bronx, and Puerto Rico. So you can imagine she has a lot of work ahead of her. As coordinator for all Citi's community development activity, Lily works closely with community leaders and organizations, leveraging Citi's business resources to help address local community needs. She serves on the board of several nonprofits, and I'm delighted to say she is a valued member of our board of directors as well. It is my great pleasure to introduce Lily Lopez, representing Citibank.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Florence, for that introduction. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you today at this wonderful convening, where it gives us an opportunity to come together, share, and learn. I know that Florence said I do cover Puerto Rico, and I do want to say that about less than 10 minutes ago, I was able to receive a call directly from one of my loved ones in Puerto Rico, although I did hear that many of them were safe, but I have a big smile, so just letting everyone know. Citi's really pleased to be a sponsor of this conference, so we have been for many years. Our partnership with Connecticut Housing Coalition is longstanding, and we're really, really proud of that. I know that it's very important work, and as I look across the room and look at all of the beautiful faces out there, everyone in this room is committed to housing affordability in this state, and that's so important. And I want to thank you all for your commitment and your devotion and your dedication to this cause. So first and foremost, I do want to say that. As a financial institution, Citi is committed to expanding economic empowerment and financial inclusion for underserved individuals, families, and communities in order to build vibrant and inclusive cities. We're driven by the belief that the most inclusive cities create economic mobility that reflects the growing diversity of this nation. resulting in more affordable and accessible places to live, work that benefit everyone. For us, financial inclusion and equitable economic development are essential components of building inclusive cities and go hand in hand with policies, programs, and investments that expand access to opportunity. We all know that Connecticut remains one of the most expensive places to live. The state ranks 8th highest according to the National Low-Income Housing Coalition's Out of Reach report. But yet, according to research from the Prosperity Now, nearly 4 in 10 Connecticut households lacks sufficient savings to sustain 3 months in the event of shock to income, like the loss of a job or an unexpected medical expense. Stable and affordable housing provides relief for working families and also veterans, seniors, and disadvantaged people, and those that live on fixed income. Not only individuals, families thrive, so do communities, and housing development spurs economic growth, but I don't have to share this because everyone in this room really knows this. But that's why Citi takes a multifaceted approach to preserving affordability. As a nation's leading affordable housing lender, Citi Community Capital works full-time on providing lending and investing to finance the construction and rehabilitation of affordable housing. I'm also joined by my colleague here, Bill Yates. And at Citi Community Development, we collaborate with municipalities and community-based organizations to enable progress along 3 themes: access, affordability, and resiliency. Through innovative programs and partnerships, we empower families and communities with the tools and resources to achieve more secure financial future. As a leader in the field, Connecticut Housing Coalition shares our commitment to affordability. They have done outstanding work with community development corporations and state housing agencies to expand the resources needed to add to the state's affordable housing stock. They provide valuable, in-depth training and capacity building support for the housing sector. We are proud, again, of our long-standing partnership with the Connecticut Housing Coalition, and we're pleased to support their Affordable Housing Academy, which aims at strengthening the project capacity of nonprofit housing developers. We look forward to continue our work together to expand housing opportunities here in Connecticut. Thank you all.
I have failed in my task. I was supposed to turn the slideshow off. I apologize if it distracted anyone. I now have the difficult job of introducing someone who truly needs no introduction to those gathered in this room today. Yvonne Klein has led the Department of Housing since it was created in 2013. We are all aware of her dedication and support for affordable housing. During her tenure, over 10,000 units of affordable housing have been created, with another 3,300 under construction. The department has also been recognized as a national leader for its efforts to end homelessness. She has been a tireless advocate for 830G, the Affordable Housing Land Use Appeals Procedure. It is my privilege to introduce Yvonne Klein, Commissioner of Housing for the state of Connecticut.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be back here again this year, and thank you, Florence, for inviting me back. I truly appreciate it. It's great to see everyone gathered today, and I've heard great things about the sessions that folks attended, so congratulations on another successful event. We at the Department of Housing truly appreciate the partnerships that we have with each and every one of you here in this room. It's because of the work that you do on the ground each and every day that we have been, as a state, a recognized leader on the national housing front. So thank you very much. And I am proud to say that here in Connecticut, we've had many successes in ending homelessness and expanding our stock of affordable housing. It's hard to believe that the little state of Connecticut made national headlines when we were the first in the nation to end chronic homelessness among our veterans. And then again, when we effectively ended veteran homelessness. But as you know, we didn't do it for the headlines. The homeless service system that we've developed is serving as a model for other communities and for other states as they begin and continue their work to end homelessness. It's also hard to believe that Connecticut continues to be the only state in the nation that has matched all chronically homeless individuals to housing. We did this by setting our own goal and by working very hard to reach that goal. Today, we can celebrate the fact that literally thousands of people in Connecticut now have a place to call home. Their lives are forever changed for the better. As you know, to end homelessness, we need affordable housing units, and we need supportive housing units too. And as you know, to meet the needs of the 50% of Connecticut renters who pay more than 30% of their income on housing, that's who we need those and other affordable units for. During the past 6.5 years, the Department of Housing and CHAFA have invested over $1 billion in the development of affordable housing. We've funded more than 21,000 units of housing. 18,500 of those units are affordable. Those units are family units, senior units, veteran units, low-income units, low-income units, units for folks with disabilities. I hope I didn't leave anyone out. These units are in the suburbs. These units are in the cities. These units are in rural areas. And it's also important to note that the bulk of the work has taken place during the department's tenure. We have partners in these wise investments. Our state contribution has sparked another $2.5 billion of investment from the private sector. We're fortunate to have a strong, forward-thinking, and courageous leader in Governor Malloy. He stands up for what's right, and he's not afraid to make unpopular decisions, keeping the best interests of Connecticut and its residents at the forefront of those decisions. This past legislative session was disappointing, and this lingering budget session, quite frankly, is baffling. The concept of amending our state's affordable housing laws and the corresponding legislation is nothing new to many of us. What we could once be assured of is the fact that there were not enough votes to enact any of those amendments. We would see amendments weaken the statute to full-on repeal. For decades, those proposals never got out of the committee. This year, we saw everything from legislative threats to burn down the House, to a number of proposals to change the Affordable Housing Land Use Appeals Act, more commonly known as 830G. The Affordable Housing Land Use Appeals procedure was finally changed because of the new makeup and the leadership on the legislature's Housing Committee. Many of you in this room know that at the Department of Housing, we believe that law has not been changed for the better. We can all point to tangible reasons why the changes made to 830G this past year are damaging to our joint efforts to create affordable housing. The governor has always been a strong supporter of affordable housing, which is why I am thankful that he vetoed that bill that got passed. But unfortunately, enough legislators in the House and Senate came together and were able to force this bad policy into law. For those who may not be familiar with 830G, it's a state statute that allows developers to override local zoning denial of an affordable housing development if that denial was made for anything other than a legitimate health and safety concern. Certain towns and cities have argued that 830G needed to be changed in order to offer relief from what they call predatory developers. While I agree, there are some developers that may not have the best intentions when they come before a planning and zoning board. but it is incumbent on that board to work with the developer and to try to produce a final product that is in the best interest of the entire community. A property owner has the right to develop their land, and a municipal body, through the powers vested in them by the state, has a right to define certain requirements for that development. What's interesting about the Public Act, the bill that changed 830G, is that it doesn't include any real structural changes to the law that wouldn't prevent the so-called predatory developers from abusing the law. Instead, these changes are mostly designed to make it easier for certain communities to deny affordable housing applications. There is only one city in particular that benefits above all the rest because of these changes. The city of Melford receives special treatment in this legislation by allowing the Ryder Woods Mobile Home Park to count for points toward a moratorium, even though this property does not have an affordable deed restriction. This means that the intent of the law was circumvented by these changes because every other community is only eligible for moratorium points if they deed restrict affordable housing and thus ensure that only people of a certain income can live there. It is important to note that developers can still use the appeals process of the statute in any municipality that does not have an active moratorium or has less than 10% of their housing stock deed restricted as affordable. 22 days after the legislature overrode the governor's veto, the City of Melford's Planning and Zoning Board repealed a local zoning ordinance that required a certain percentage of affordable units to be included in any proposed multifamily housing development in a specific part of the city. Hearing of this, I sent a letter asking the mayor to denounce this action. He did not. Simply said, the action the legislature took is regressive. The action the City of Melford took is regressive. The message that these actions send are, if you're homeless in Connecticut, chances are you will remain homeless. If you're paying more than 30% of your income on housing, well, you'll just have to continue to struggle. If you're an employer looking for employees, good luck. If you're a municipality working to be more vibrant and attractive to people of all ages, well, it's hard to do that without a healthy stock of affordable housing. With the challenges that we face as a state in 2017, we need to be enacting legislation that encourages housing choice and supports economic growth in all 169 towns and cities. Those of us in this room share common goals, and they are, simply said, to end homelessness and to increase the stock of affordable housing in the state of Connecticut. We can and did quibble over whether 830G in its current state will hinder our collective goals. But here's the thing. Not being united will hinder our collective goals. Not having a Department of Housing as a standalone agency will hinder our collective goals. And the continued assault on 8-30G will hinder our collective goals, because with time, as legislators continue to chip away, because now they know they can, 830G will be a shell of the statute that we all once knew. Now, today, we need to be united in protecting the important work that began years ago and has continued in recent years. We have an administration that is friendly to and supportive of our goals, something that many of us have waited decades for. Together, we need to get our message out to legislators to support a standalone Department of Housing and to protect our funding, because we have proven results. We have come too far to settle for less. As you know, the governor has pledged to veto the budget that passed the House and Senate 2 weeks ago. He continues to pledge his support to the department and our collective efforts. Our call to action is to protect the progress. Call email, and meet with your legislators to talk about our collective success, the need for a standalone Department of Housing, and to preserve funding levels. Thank you very much.
It's the show that wouldn't die here. Diane Yantel is the president and CEO, or chief executive officer. I keep wanting to say chief elected official. That's where I come from. I don't think you want to be that. So, of the National Low Income Housing Coalition. She leads efforts on a national level to achieve socially just public policy to ensure that the people in our country with the lowest incomes have access to affordable and decent housing. Diane is an affordable housing policy expert and advocate with nearly 2 decades of work in the field. Prior to rejoining the National Low Income Housing Coalition as president, Diane was vice president of Public Policy and Government Affairs at Enterprise Community Partners. She has also worked at the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, Oxfam America, and the Massachusetts Coalition for the Homeless, always working for social justice and for those who are less fortunate than us. Last but not least, she served for 3 years as a community development Peace Corps volunteer in Zambia. She is an acknowledged leader, frequently cited in such little-known publications as the New York Times, the Washington Post, and Politico. We are delighted that she could be with us today to impart her wisdom and some inspiration. It is my distinct pleasure and honor to introduce Diane Yantel.
Hello, good afternoon. So I'm Diane with the National Low Income Housing Coalition, and as you heard, we are a membership organization dedicated solely to achieving socially just public policy that assures that the lowest income people have decent, safe, and affordable homes. And to the extent that we're successful in our work, it's due to our partners throughout the country, members, state partners, allies, and key partners like the Connecticut Housing Coalition, who, as you all know very well, works tirelessly at the federal, state, and local levels to advance affordable housing solutions. And I'm really grateful for their good work. I'm grateful for their partnership and for the opportunity to be here with you today to talk a little bit about what we face in the coming years. And I love coming to these kind of events